In the United States, you were mentioning in New York. In New York, the New York City Police Department, which I have intimate relations with, the NYPD, and the CIA, which is forbidden from operating on U.S. soil by law, have conducted counterintelligence operations against the Muslim community throughout the New York area. They have infiltrated the masjids with individuals they call mosque crawlers to inform on the ummah, to inform on the Muslims, to record the khutbah and what the imam said. They had immigrations call Muslims in who have family members who are trying to get a green card to turn them into informants. And say, well, if you don't work for us, we're going to send your mother back to Pakistan, or you're not going to get your green card. I mean, this is unprecedented in the sense that we have for the first time this documented. And so you would think that the Muslims in New York would say, okay, we got this documented. Let us file a civil action. Let us bring this out so that people could see that this is against our constitutional rights, our legal rights as citizens, right? It doesn't happen because the immigrant community, which is predominantly Muslims from Pakistan, India, and the Far East, and the Mediterranean, they are so afraid of the state that they will not defend themselves against this. In fact, they have invited the police commissioner to give the keynote address at IFTA. Here you invite the man that is infiltrating your ummah, that is passing on intelligence information around about your own family. You want to invite him, a non-Muslim, to give the keynote address at your IFTA, saying that they don't have to infiltrate us. All they got to do is come and we'll work with them. This is the immigrant Muslim community. Now I want to stress this, and I really want you to stress this. The immigrant Muslim community in the United States are collaborators with white supremacy, with racism, with racial profiling. They are collaborators with it because they refuse to fight it. And they have the resources to fight it. You gotta understand something. The immigrant Muslim community in the United States is very, very wealthy. They're not poor at all. The majority of them came to the United States as professionals, doctors and lawyers. They didn't come, on an immigrant boat with a sack on their back looking for opportunity. The majority of them came from wealthy families. They came from at least middle-class families. Their children go to school, get college degrees, become doctors. These are not people that came to America to commit crimes or to subvert America. They came for a better life, and I understand that. So when they get to America and they're treated like this, knowing how the police were where they came from, they said, well, let's show the police that we're really citizens. Let's show them that we're not subversive, that we don't support terrorism. And that's a mistake. Because white supremacy don't see them that way. No matter how much you kiss their butt, they're going to still look at you as a filthy Muslim, as an Arab, or as a nigger. And they don't trust you. Because you don't look like them. You don't have their values. You don't think like them. And they do not trust you. And rather than say, okay, there's this distrust here, let us protect ourselves against this distrust. Let us, build our own institutions. Let us make sure we go into court to fight for our rights. They won't do it. Now you take the black Muslim community. You gotta understand something. 70% of the Muslims in the United States are of African American ancestry. They are not immigrants. 70% of Muslims in the U.S. are African American, are black. They were born there. Okay? So we have this history of struggle with the police. We know how to go into the courts and file civil actions to protect our rights. What was the civil rights movement about? The civil rights movement was about that very thing. Our right to vote, our right to be safe from police illegal search and seizures, our right to be able to gather and peacefully protest, our right to work, our right to all of these things is what things that we fought for 450 years in the United States as black people. So we have an experience in this. Do you think that the African American Muslims and the immigrant Muslims in the United States are one and united like this around this type of surveillance and repression, and that they will get together and that the immigrant Muslims will use the experience of African American Muslims, and African American Muslims could draw on the resources of the immigrant community to make the whole ummah strong and their rights protected? No. No. The African American Muslims want to resist police abuse. The immigrant community wants to collaborate with the police so that the abuse will stop. The consequence? The police abuse Muslims with impunity. There's no resistance. The only people that are resisting are non-Muslims. The Pan-African nationalists, the revolutionary nationalists, the socialists, the progressive forces, they're the ones that's in the Occupied Wall Street movement. They're the ones that's talking about occupying the courthouse. They're the ones that's talking about freeing political prisoners, not the immigrant Muslim community. So I really want you to emphasize this, because you know, whenever you look at Islam in America, whenever there's a special on Islam in America, you never see black Muslims. You only see immigrant Muslims. They say, well, how is it being Muslim in America? Oh, I was born here. My family immigrated from Pakistan. Oh, I'm from India. Oh, I'm from, Indonesia. You don't hear one Muslim say, oh yeah, man, I'm from Harlem and I was in jail for the last 12 years. That's when I got turned to Islam, I was in prison. And no. So you don't see on the media that the majority of Muslims in the United States are black. Which means that to white America, Islam is black militancy. You understand that? They don't see Islam, they see Islam when black people advocated as a form of black militancy, as a form of black nationalism. That's how a white society and the power structure in America sees Islam. When they're black, when they're immigrant Muslims, they see Islam as a foreign religion. And because America's supposed to be tolerant, that foreign religion is okay. You're not persecuted because of your religion. That's what they say. Okay? So when they kill Muslims who are black, they explain to the immigrant community he wasn't killed because he was Muslim. He wasn't killed because he was black. He was killed because he was a criminal. Okay? They've murdered imams right in Detroit. I don't know if you remember. They murdered the Imam Yusuf Lukman. They came and they murdered him, shot him 21 times in the face. The FBI and the Joint Terrorist Task Force killed this man. Okay, this Imam. He's revered in the Detroit community. People love him because he does so much for the people. Okay, he's a young Imam. In fact, he has bayat. He had bayat to Imam Jamil Al-Amin, Rat Brown, who's in prison. Okay. The FBI and the Joint Terrorist Task Force went to the immigrant community in nearby Dearborn to explain why they killed this imam. Because the Muslim community was upset. How could y'all kill an imam? This is the immigrant community. They said he wasn't just an imam, he was a criminal. And we were serving a criminal warrant. And he resisted, and that's why we killed. That's how he got killed. It had nothing to do with being a Muslim. And they said, oh, alhamdulillah, okay. It never dawned on them that they bought a dog to arrest an imam. They bought a dog to arrest an imam. What do you think the imam was going to do when the dog came to arrest him? He shot the dog. And they said, oh, he got a gun! And they killed him. They sent the dog in first because they knew what the significance of a dog in Muslims. They know that. These people ain't stupid. So they sent the dog in to arrest him. The dog came in, he shot the dog. Okay, they came in, subdued him, handcuffed him, and shot him 21 times. This is an imam, but he was black. You see? He was an imam. Now, you see the big cry when they killed Imam Yassin in the Gaza, in the occupied territories? It was a global cry. Even Al-Qaeda carried out retributive actions because this imam was revered by the Ummah, inside and outside Palestine. Okay, the blind sheikh who's in prison now in the U.S., revered inside and outside of the world. Okay? They have carried out numerous operations to free this blind sheikh. Okay? And here in the United States, just less than 2 years ago, the United States law enforcement, murdered an imam in broad daylight, in cold blood, and then nobody said shit. Nobody said nothing. And what do you think that is? That is because the immigrant community has been bought and sold a line of crap that they are not persecuted as Muslims. You understand? There's only people who take advantage of Islam for extremist purposes, and those are people we're interested in. So the imams say, okay, anybody that says anything extreme, if we had this conversation in the masjid, they'll report it to the FBI. That me and you are probably Al-Qaeda sympathizers. And they'll have somebody come in and start talking about, let's go blow up JFK airport, and let's go do this and let's go do that. And we'll have a conversation just like this. And I say, I think that the Saudi regimes that kill Muslims, they themselves should be executed. And he'll come up and say, he's advocating execution of so-and-so and so. So let's give him a gun. And before you know it, you're in jail for conspiracy to commit terrorism. You see? So we have to see what's taking place here. In the United States, racism divides the Muslim community. And racism, and it's the racism of the overall ummah that does not see that what's happening in the United States to Muslims is a continuation of what's happened to black people in the United States for 450 years. Because most of the Muslims that come out in the black community, many of them, the most militant ones, come out of prison. They come out of prison. You have entire jamaats who 80%, except for the women, are ex-inmates. And they're following the Deen al-Haq. These brothers are on the Deen. They're praying 5 times a day. They're not committing any crimes. They're trying to work. Even if they can't get a job, they start their own little business. They might even be selling incense and oil on the streets, trying to make a few dollars. They're not criminals. They may have been in jail, and they may have, but they believe in their Deen. They're trying to follow it. And because they believe in their Deen and they came out of prison, most of them are militant. Because they've seen racism firsthand in prison. You don't know how Muslims are treated in prison in America. Although you're supposed to have freedom of religion and you can pray in prison, the guards abuse it. They come into the masjid with their shoes on, they spit on your Quran, they do all of these things. And to a Muslim, that's outrageous. And Muslims in prison will fight. Just because they're in prison don't mean they won't fight. You see what I'm saying? And so what happens in prison is you have all of these Muslims in isolation and solitary confinement, especially the ones that are leaders, you see, because they resist. And the thing about Muslims in prison, they don't resist individually, they resist collectively. So if the prison guard beats up one Muslim, all of the Muslims are going to fight. So what the prison guards do, they'll beat him up and they'll ship him to another prison so that the rest of the Muslims don't see that he was beat up. Because if they do, they're going to have a riot. You see? So this type of mentality, this jihadist mentality comes out of prison into the community. It's scary to these people. Because to the young Muslim who comes out of prison, if you transgressed on the ummah, we're supposed to defend ourselves. We ain't supposed to go, ask for a meeting with the mayor and sit down with him and say, oh, please tell him to stop doing this. This is wrong, and we want to cooperate. It's not like that. To the Muslim that comes out of jail, the Muslim comes out, it's quite simple. If the police attack us, then we fight back. You see? And this is very dangerous as far as the immigrant community is concerned. And so they don't want this to spread, and the way they don't spread it is they make sure that they get these imams and these leaders who are collaborationists, like Imam Siraj Wahaj, and Farrakhan and all of these knuckleheads. You see what I'm saying? Who they know won't fight. They'll just they won't do nothing. They won't tell they followers to resist. They'll get mystical, like Farrakhan will talk about how, he has divine inspiration from Allah, and that's why he's still here. And how could you possibly criticize or debate anybody that talks to Allah every day? What is your opinion worth if you talk to Allah? What you're saying don't mean nothing. Excuse me, I'm talking to Allah right now. Facebook, me and Allah, we kick it every day. And you come and say, brother, you can't do that. Yes, I can. I just had a conversation with Allah, and he said, this is what I should do. Oh, what you say don't mean nothing, man. You know, hey man, who am I? I'm just a knucklehead. Put a word in for me with Allah, man. You know, like I'm trying to do the right thing too. You know, it's crazy. But these are the type of leaders that we get. They're not leaders, they're misleaders. They're designed to keep, just like the old autocrats in the Arab world, to keep us in check. You see?
Okay, and one last question is about the upcoming elections, presidential elections in the USA. So in the 6th of November, I think there will be an election. So how do you think, will it change anything at all?
No.
Nothing?
No.
And do you think that Obama has a chance to win again?
He probably will win. The only way Obama wouldn't win is, first of all, if he's not here. In other words, somebody kills his ass before then. Second of all, if he does something absolutely insane, which I don't think he's going to do because he doesn't seem to be the insane type to me. He's a very smart and ruthless individual, you know. And so I don't think that that he would do anything stupid between now and then. Events might overtake him. There may be event. I think that you know how I feel about this Israeli attack on Iran. I think that that's going to happen before the election. You know, I could be wrong. It might happen just after the election, but it's going to happen. And it's going to happen in the very, very near future. And if that happens between now and the elections, things can get complicated. You know, it could be anybody's ball game. But right now, as it stands, the opposition that's being mounted against him from the Republican Party, I mean, that's like putting me in the ring with Muhammad Ali in his prime. You know you're gonna beat the bark off me. You know that, right? You understand? All the guy can do is try to crawl up in the corner somewhere, because he can't kick while he's boxing. So that's the only way I could probably get out of an ass whipping. You understand? So if that's the equivalent of Obama against whatever Republican candidate they got coming up, it's like me in the ring with Muhammad Ali when he was in his prime. You see? He's definitely going to beat whoever the Republicans put up against him. They don't have nobody of character to put up against him. And also, the Republicans are crazy. Some of the stuff that they're talking about is insane. And then, you know, Obama's popularity is shot up in the polls. Now, 47% versus 44% of the American public approve of his presidency. So he's riding a wave, and this is because there's been a few 100,000 jobs added. General Motors is making more money now than it's ever made in its entire history after being bailed out by the American taxpayers. You know, all the auto companies are back on top. Bank, Chase Bank, and all of these banks and real estate companies are doing booming. They're experiencing unprecedented profits. Meanwhile, there are over 7-point-something million workers out of jobs in the United States. Manufacturing has fled abroad. Technology has reduced certain middle-level jobs. There's 2.5 million people in prison. Okay, all workers, undocumented work, marginalized workers. Of those 2.5 million, we're not even talking about immigrants in prisons. There's 65 million people with felony convictions in the United States, which means they can't get a job. You see? So this whole situation is a result of one thing, and that's capitalism. And that's what the Occupy Wall Street movement has brought to the table now. They have finally identified the problem as capitalism. It's capitalism that has created this paradigm, that has created these problems. Capitalism is about the exploitation of the many by a few. It's about profit over human rights. It's about real estate over human conditions. It's the humanization of corporations. Corporations in America have rights as an individual, as a person. They have individual rights, a corporation. They have the same rights you and I have. And a corporation is not a person. The sole purpose of a corporation is to make money. We don't just live to make money. But it has the same rights. You can't sue. If you sue a corporation, you're suing an individual in America. You see? So this whole all of these inequalities come from capitalism. Homelessness, tens of millions of people in the United States who are homeless, urban areas that are declining, and police running crazy in the streets, you know, stripping black people in the streets, searching them, talking about it's gang-related, and all of this madness, all of this stuff is a consequence of capitalism.
And did Occupy Wall Street movement changed anything?
I think they changed the paradigm of the debate. And this is a criticism I've had of Muslims. I've had this criticism of progressives and activists, that they have not identified the basis of why we are in the situation we are in. We demonstrate against symptoms. The police kill somebody unjustly, we'll get 500 people and march downtown to the police station to protest. Okay? The police are the armed agents of the state. The state functions in order to protect property. Property has individuality in capitalism. It's capitalism. The police are only the tip of the iceberg. They do what they told. They soldiers, basically. They're supposed to be in civil service. They're supposed to work for you, but they don't. They tell you what to do. And if you don't do it, they kill you, beat you up, put you in jail. So you don't control them, they control you. You don't tell them, you don't write the laws. You have some other folks that you thought you elected write the laws. So what we're seeing in America, the Occupy Wall Street movement, because it represents mainly white, middle and lower middle class working people who no longer have mortgages, who no longer have jobs, who have businesses that are going under, who can't pay their student loans. These are the people that constitute the Occupied Wall Street movement. And of course, a lot of young people who are disenchanted with the system, who, some of them are ex-soldiers, you understand? And they look at this as their movement, as their civil rights movement of their generation. So they're out there in the streets occupying these different places. And it's changed, yes, it's changed, because you see it spread globally.
And is it ended or is it continuing?
It's continuing.
Because we stopped hearing about it.
Well, let me end this interview with this. Mahatma Gandhi once said about struggle that when you first begin, they ignore you. Then when you become too big, they ridicule you and laugh at you. Right? And then when they realize that don't work, they fight you. And then you win. We're in the they fight you stage. They ignored the Wall Street movement all summer, last summer. They ignored it. Oh, these are a bunch of crazy, it ain't even there. Then when they didn't go away and they started growing, they ridiculed them. Oh, they don't know what they're talking about. They don't have no leaders. They put people on television. I'm protesting something. This is the type of, you should see these guys went to CNN and Fox News just to go down there to laugh at the kids that were out there camping out. They had long hair, they playing music, we want to, and they're laughing at them, right? Then it started spreading globally, talking about the 99% and 1%, class war. Now the politicians had to defend capitalism. They had to defend the fact that people are lost their homes, people ain't got no jobs. How could you defend that? You can't, okay? So they took them serious now. Then they unleashed the police on them. The police are beating them right now as we speak, tear gassing them, beating them. You've seen it on television from Oakland to New York. Dragging them out the streets, beating them up, throwing them in jail. That's the third phase. They fight you, right? Now we're going to win. You see? So that's my commentary on the Wall Street movement.